Assalamu alaikum, good people. I wanted to come on here and talk about something that I read in this book, Knowledge and Wisdom by Imam Haddad, about pairs and opposites. And the reason this hit is because I think a lot of, I've heard a lot of people still, there's a lot of skepticism, I think, because a lot of people have this idea that, like, why does evil exist in the world, right? But nobody goes and gets the answer. They'll say, if there was a God, why? Like, they ask the question, why does suffering exist? Why does evil exist, right? How come everything isn't just good, right? But nobody goes and tries to find the answer. And I think it's because there's a skepticism where they don't trust, right? They don't trust an answer. They think that there is no answer. They think that, any answer that's given is smoke or gaslighting or deceptive, right? But I wanted to point out something, that one of the things that Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi said about, there's an ayat in the Quran that talks about paradise, and it describes paradise as being shade long extended, right? So in Arabic, the word for shadow and shade is the same, but paradise is described as shade long extended, right? And one of the things that Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah said is that everything is shade to some degree. There's just differing degrees of shade. Because if everything was pure light, you wouldn't be able to see. And if everything was pure darkness, you wouldn't be able to see. So anytime that you can see is a combination of where light meets dark. Now, there's just varying degrees of it. Just because you go under a tree, doesn't mean that's where shade is only, right? It may be more shade than outside from under the tree, right? Like if you weren't under the tree, you'd be in less shade. But shade is it's a value of light and darkness, right? Nothing is pure light and nothing is pure darkness. Otherwise, you wouldn't see. So everything is some degree of shade, right? And this is where paradise is explained, that it is shade long extended, meaning in order to understand a thing, you have to understand it by its opposite, right? And so what Imam Haddad says in this book, right? This is what he says. He says, those whose powers of discernment are weak may observe the opposites in this world, such as light and darkness, good and evil, righteousness and corruption, benefit and harm, and so on. They may turn this over in their minds and then perhaps imagine that had the world been made exclusively of light or goodness and beneficence, it would have been better and more useful. They may then raise objections to Allah's creation of the opposite of these and go on to think that there is neither cause nor wisdom behind the existence of bad and evil, right? But this is also where your tests come in, right? If you weren't given the test, there's no test. That's the whole point of this world. This is a testing ground, right? So if a teacher gives you, if the teacher says, okay, everybody take your pencils out, you're going to do a test, but she doesn't give you the test, or he, then there's no test. You need the actual thing present in order for you to be tested, right? Maybe the test is patience, right? Maybe the test is husnul dhan, right? That no matter what you see, you still keep a good opinion of your brother or your sister, right? I mean, the test could be a myriad of things, but that's, I think the point that's trying to be made here is that there's a wisdom in these things existing, even through reason and logic, right? That there's a point and a purpose for opposites to exist. Namely, first of all, you only know a thing through understanding its opposite. So you would never truly know what good is, and you would never be able to practice free will if there was no choice. You can't just say, here's free will. Oh, by the way, there's only good you can do. That's not free will. That's not you choosing. The reason that you have a choice is because it's a proof. Because you can only sacrifice what the lower self wants to do. See, this is the wisdom of his plan. He made a world that the lower self of the human being is attracted to the bad things, right? And naturally, you want to do them. He didn't make you do them. He said, don't do them. Why? Because the wisdom is that the only way that a human being can, on his or her own volition, sacrifice what they want to do for what someone else wants, in this case, Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has to be out of love and obedience. And love is obedience. If you love someone, you will obey them. Right? And I'm not talking about you love your kid, so you're going to obey your kid. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the love that would be due from worship, right? In order for a human being to sacrifice what makes them feel good for what someone else wants, in order to do that, in order for that sacrifice to happen on a free will type of thing, that's the proof. Human beings ain't just given. Why do you think so many people fail at their New Year's resolutions? Like, people don't just change habits for for no reason, right? That's the wisdom of why Allah has placed these things in the earth, that it's not just good. Everything ain't good, because then there's no choice, right? Then you can't really truly know a thing from its opposite and appreciate it and see it manifested in a physical realm so that you can see the negative and positive effects of these outcomes. Assalamu alaikum.